Ladies and gentlemen, today I want to share with you a secret that Jesus himself used to walk in victory over every battle he faced. It's simple yet incredibly powerful. It's not a ritual, a program, or something you have to learn for years. It's just 3 words. 3 words that the devil fears more than anything else in this world. These words are not just words. They carry authority, they carry power, and they carry the ability to set you free. Every believer has access to them. Every situation, no matter how hopeless it seems, can be overcome when these words are spoken in faith. And today, we're going to uncover this secret and see how you too can walk in the same victory that Jesus did. Words are more than just sounds that come out of your mouth. They are seeds, and whatever you plant, you will reap. The Bible tells us in Proverbs 18:21 that death and life are in the power of the tongue, and those who love it will eat its fruits. That means every word you speak carries power. Every word you release into the atmosphere is creating something. It is forming realities. It is either building life or bringing destruction. Jesus understood this more than anyone. He spoke words and storms obeyed, diseases vanished, and the dead were raised. He never used his own strength. He simply spoke the word, and the power of God went into action. You and I have access to that same principle. The devil fears what comes out of your mouth when you speak in faith, because he knows words release authority, and authority brings defeat to him. Too many believers underestimate this. They pray and hope God will act, but they don't understand that their words are the vessels of God's power. When you say what God says, when you speak life over yourself, your family, your finances, and your health, something supernatural begins to move. It is not about repeating words like a magic formula. It is about believing what you speak, declaring the truth of God's word with confidence, and refusing to let doubt creep in. Every time you declare God's promises, you are planting a seed. Every time you speak faith-filled words, you are cutting down strongholds. The tongue becomes a weapon in the hands of the believer, and the devil knows it. That is why Jesus always used words that came from the Word of God. He never argued with the enemy. He simply declared what was true, and the enemy had no choice but to obey. You can do the same today. You can begin to see the power of words manifest in your life when you start declaring God's truth boldly. Words are not just for conversation. They are for victory. They are for life. They are the invisible force that can shape your circumstances, influence your destiny, and release God's supernatural power into every area of your life. The devil operates through deception, intimidation, and fear, but there are certain words that expose him and strip him of his influence. The enemy thrives when believers remain silent, doubtful, or uncertain about their authority. He works best in darkness, in confusion, and in lies that sound believable enough to make people surrender without realizing they have already been given victory. The moment truth is spoken with confidence, the enemy loses ground. He cannot stand words that are rooted in divine truth, because those words reveal who he truly is, defeated, powerless, and unable to stand against spiritual authority. From the very beginning, his strategy has been to question truth, to twist words, and to convince people that they are weak, forgotten, or unworthy. When those lies are accepted and repeated, they become chains that hold believers captive in fear, anxiety, and defeat. But when a believer begins to speak truth boldly, those chains begin to break, because truth carries authority that darkness cannot withstand. The enemy fears believers who understand their identity and are willing to speak it aloud. He fears words that declare freedom, healing, restoration, and authority, because those declarations cancel the lies he uses to maintain control. Many people think spiritual battles are fought through physical effort or emotional struggle, but the battlefield is often in what is spoken and believed. When negative circumstances appear, the enemy wants believers to speak defeat, to confess hopelessness, and to repeat what they see instead of what is promised. He knows that words spoken in fear create agreement with his plans. But when believers refuse to speak fear and instead speak truth with boldness, they shift the atmosphere around them. There is a reason intimidation is one of the enemy's strongest tools. He wants believers to feel unqualified to speak with authority. He wants them to believe their voices do not matter, their prayers are weak, and their declarations are powerless. Yet spiritual authority was never based on human perfection. It was based on divine truth and faith in that truth. When believers begin to speak with confidence, declaring what has already been established in the spiritual realm, the enemy recognizes that his influence is being challenged. He fears consistency because consistent truth destroys consistent lies. He fears confidence because confidence in truth removes fear from the heart of the believer. He fears believers who refuse to remain silent when pressure rises, when challenges appear, and when circumstances seem overwhelming. Throughout the ministry of Jesus, there was a consistent pattern in how he responded to opposition, temptation, and spiritual confrontation. He never relied on emotional reactions, personal arguments, or human reasoning when facing the forces of darkness. Instead, he spoke with certainty, authority, and unwavering confidence in divine truth. There were three powerful expressions that repeatedly appeared in his responses, and these expressions revealed a spiritual principle that demonstrates how victory is established through spoken faith. When Jesus faced temptation in the wilderness, he was physically weak after fasting, yet spiritually strong because he relied on the authority of truth. Each time the enemy attempted to deceive him, he responded by declaring what had already been established by divine authority. He did not engage in debate or attempt to prove his strength through demonstrations of power. He simply declared truth that could not be challenged. These expressions showed that spiritual authority flows through spoken truth backed by faith. When he declared that truth had already been established, he was showing that victory is not created in the moment of battle, but is already secured through divine promise. When he spoke words that calmed storms, silenced fear, and removed oppression, he demonstrated that authority is exercised through confident declaration rather than desperate pleading. When he commanded unclean spirits to leave, they obeyed immediately, showing that darkness recognizes authority when it is spoken with unwavering belief. These responses were not isolated moments, but a consistent demonstration of how spiritual victory operates. The importance of these expressions is not limited to historical events. They reveal a spiritual law that continues to operate. The same authority that was demonstrated through spoken truth is available to those who believe and speak with faith. Many believers struggle because they attempt to fight spiritual battles using emotional strength or natural logic, but spiritual authority operates through confidence in truth and the willingness to speak it without hesitation. The example that was set shows that victory does not come from arguing with opposition or focusing on the size of the problem. Victory comes from declaring truth that cannot be altered by circumstances. When these expressions are spoken with faith, they establish authority, silence fear, and expose deception, revealing that spiritual battles are often determined by what is spoken and what is believed rather than what is seen or felt. Words alone do not release spiritual authority unless they are supported by genuine faith. Faith is what gives life to spoken truth and activates the power behind it. Many people repeat powerful words without seeing results because they speak out of routine, tradition, or desperation rather than confidence and belief. Faith is not simply hoping something will happen. It is a deep assurance that what has been promised is already established, even if circumstances appear unchanged. When words are spoken with this level of belief, they become more than statements. They become declarations that carry spiritual authority. Jesus demonstrated this principle repeatedly. He spoke words that seemed simple, yet those words carried unstoppable power because they were rooted in complete confidence in divine truth. He never questioned whether his words would produce results because he fully trusted the authority behind them. Faith changes the way words are spoken. Words spoken in fear often carry doubt, hesitation, and uncertainty, which weakens their impact. Words spoken in faith carry boldness, clarity, and authority, which strengthens their influence in the spiritual realm. Faith-filled words align the heart and the mouth with truth, creating agreement that releases spiritual power. The enemy recognizes when words are spoken with genuine belief because those words disrupt his influence. Doubt creates hesitation, and hesitation weakens authority, which is why fear and uncertainty are tools often used to silence believers or make them question their ability to speak with confidence. Faith removes hesitation and replaces it with certainty, allowing believers to speak truth without being intimidated by circumstances. Faith also grows through hearing, studying, and meditating on truth until it becomes firmly established within the heart. When truth is deeply planted within a person, their words begin to reflect that conviction naturally. This is why consistent exposure to truth strengthens the ability to speak with authority during challenges. Faith-filled words are not emotional reactions to problems, but confident declarations based on what has already been promised. When believers develop strong faith, their words begin to carry peace during chaos, confidence during uncertainty, and authority during spiritual opposition. The connection between faith and words reveals that victory is not determined by how loudly or frequently words are spoken, but by the level of belief behind those words, which transforms simple declarations into powerful expressions of spiritual authority that influence circumstances and challenge darkness. Every believer will face battles in life. Some battles appear in the form of temptation, others through fear, sickness, discouragement, or unexpected challenges that attempt to shake confidence and create doubt. These battles often feel overwhelming because they attack emotions, thoughts, and circumstances all at once. Many people assume that victory requires extraordinary strength or special spiritual status, but the example that has been given shows that victory is available through the consistent application of spoken truth backed by faith. Spiritual battles are rarely won through physical effort or emotional resistance alone. They are won when truth is declared with confidence and authority. When believers understand this principle, they begin to approach challenges differently. Instead of reacting with fear or panic, they respond with calm assurance, knowing that victory has already been established through divine promise. Temptation is one of the most common battles people face, and it often begins with subtle thoughts that attempt to justify compromise or create confusion. When temptation appears, the enemy tries to convince individuals that resistance is impossible or that surrender is easier. Speaking truth interrupts this process by reminding the mind and heart of what has already been established. Fear operates in a similar way, using uncertainty and imagination to create worst-case scenarios that seem real even before they happen. When fear is confronted with confident declarations of truth, its influence begins to weaken because fear cannot thrive where faith is consistently spoken. Sickness and discouragement also attempt to create defeat by focusing attention on symptoms, pain, or negative outcomes. Declaring truth in those moments shifts focus from the problem to the promise, creating an atmosphere where peace and strength begin to replace despair. Victory in every battle does not mean the absence of challenges. It means the presence of authority during those challenges. Believers who learn to speak truth consistently begin to experience inner stability even when external situations remain difficult. Their confidence grows because they rely on established promises rather than temporary circumstances. Spiritual victory often begins internally before it becomes visible externally. When words of truth are spoken repeatedly, they strengthen faith, reshape thinking, and create endurance that allows believers to stand firm during prolonged challenges. The consistent declaration of truth creates an environment where discouragement loses its power, confusion begins to clear, and strength begins to rise, allowing believers to face battles with confidence rather than fear, and to stand with assurance even when opposition attempts to appear overwhelming. Spiritual authority has been made available to every believer, not reserved for a select few or limited to those who hold visible positions of leadership. Many people mistakenly believe that authority belongs only to those who appear spiritually strong, experienced, or highly educated in religious knowledge. Yet spiritual authority is established through identity rather than status. When a person understands who they are and what has already been granted to them, they begin to recognize that authority is part of their spiritual inheritance. This authority allows believers to stand against fear, deception, and oppression with confidence, knowing that they are not relying on personal strength, but on a power that has already been established and given to them. Authority is exercised through belief and spoken declaration. Just as a person in a position of leadership speaks and expects instructions to be followed, spiritual authority operates when believers speak with confidence and truth. Many believers struggle to exercise authority because they focus on their weaknesses, past failures, or feelings of unworthiness. The enemy often uses these thoughts to create hesitation, convincing believers that they are not qualified to speak with authority. Yet authority was never dependent on personal perfection. It was established through divine promise and made available to those who believe and accept it. When believers begin to understand this, they stop speaking from a place of doubt and start speaking from a place of confidence. Understanding authority changes how believers respond to challenges. Instead of reacting with fear or passivity, they begin to confront opposition with calm assurance. They recognize that they are not powerless against spiritual attacks, negative thoughts, or overwhelming circumstances. Authority gives believers the ability to resist deception, silence fear, and declare freedom with confidence. This authority is strengthened through consistent faith and the willingness to speak truth, even when emotions or circumstances attempt to suggest otherwise. When believers accept their authority, they begin to walk with greater confidence in their daily lives. Their words begin to carry assurance rather than hesitation. Their prayers shift from desperate requests to confident declarations rooted in established truth. This understanding creates boldness that allows believers to stand firm during challenges and refuse to surrender to intimidation or doubt. Spiritual authority grows stronger as it is exercised, and as believers continue to speak truth with confidence. They begin to experience greater stability, clarity, and courage in situations that once created fear or uncertainty, recognizing that authority is not something they must earn, but something they have already been given and can exercise through faith and spoken declaration. Understanding spiritual truth becomes truly powerful when it is applied in daily life. Many people listen to teachings, feel inspired in the moment, and agree with the message, but struggle to apply those principles when real challenges appear. Practical application requires consistency, discipline, and intentional focus. It involves training the mind and the mouth to respond with truth rather than reacting emotionally to circumstances. Life presents daily situations that test faith, whether through unexpected problems, negative conversations, discouraging news, or internal battles with fear and doubt. These moments become opportunities to apply spoken truth. Instead of allowing emotions or circumstances to control reactions, believers can choose to speak words that align with established promises. This requires awareness and practice because natural instincts often push people to speak what they see or feel rather than what they believe. Applying spoken truth begins with developing the habit of recognizing negative patterns in thinking and speaking. Many people unknowingly repeat words of defeat, fear, or hopelessness because those expressions have become part of their normal communication. Practical application requires replacing those patterns with declarations of truth. When challenges arise in health, relationships, finances, or emotional stability, speaking truth shifts attention from the problem to the promise. This shift does not ignore reality. It introduces a greater reality that brings hope and strength. Consistency is essential because spoken truth builds spiritual confidence over time. Each declaration strengthens faith, making it easier to respond with confidence in future challenges. Daily routines provide opportunities to practice spoken truth intentionally. Beginning the day with positive declarations establishes mental and spiritual focus. Speaking truth during stressful moments helps prevent fear from gaining control. Declaring truth before making important decisions brings clarity and confidence. Even during conversations with others, choosing words carefully can influence both personal thinking and the atmosphere surrounding those interactions. Practical application also involves maintaining spoken truth during prolonged challenges when results do not appear immediately. Consistency during these moments strengthens endurance and prevents discouragement from taking root. Applying spoken truth requires patience and commitment because habits of thinking and speaking do not change instantly. Over time, consistent declarations reshape thinking patterns, strengthen emotional stability, and build confidence in spiritual authority. As spoken truth becomes a natural response, believers begin to experience greater peace during uncertainty, stronger confidence during challenges, and greater control over fear, recognizing that daily application transforms spiritual knowledge into lived experience and strengthens the ability to respond to life with faith rather than reaction to circumstances. When believers consistently speak truth with faith and confidence, the results begin to appear both internally and externally. The first change often takes place within the heart and mind. Anxiety begins to lose its grip, fear starts to fade, and a sense of calm assurance begins to replace uncertainty. This internal transformation is powerful because it changes how individuals respond to challenges, conversations, and unexpected situations. Instead of reacting with panic or discouragement, believers begin to respond with stability and confidence. Peace becomes more than an emotional feeling. It becomes a steady presence that remains even when circumstances appear unstable. This peace influences decision-making, relationships, and personal outlook, creating a mindset that is not easily shaken by negative news or temporary setbacks. Freedom is another result that begins to develop through consistent spoken truth. Many people carry invisible burdens created by negative thinking, past failures, or repeated discouraging experiences. These burdens often create mental and emotional barriers that prevent individuals from believing in positive change. When truth is spoken regularly, it begins to dismantle these barriers. Old patterns of thinking start to lose influence, and confidence begins to grow. Believers often notice that they feel less controlled by fear, guilt, or insecurity. They begin to experience a sense of release that allows them to move forward with greater boldness and hope. This freedom affects not only personal thinking, but also interactions with others, allowing individuals to communicate with clarity and confidence rather than hesitation or self-doubt. Victory becomes visible through gradual and consistent transformation. Challenges may still appear, but they no longer carry the same power to create defeat. Believers begin to approach problems with confidence, knowing they have authority and truth to rely on. Relationships may improve as communication becomes more positive and encouraging. Emotional stability increases because spoken truth strengthens resilience during difficult seasons. Spiritual growth becomes more noticeable as confidence in divine promises deepens. Consistent spoken truth also influences the environment around believers. Words filled with faith and confidence create atmospheres of encouragement, hope, and stability that impact families, workplaces, and communities. Others often notice the change and may become encouraged to develop similar confidence and faith. Over time, believers who consistently speak truth begin to experience greater clarity, stronger emotional balance, increased courage during adversity, and a deeper sense of purpose that influences their daily lives and long-term direction. Victory in life is not reserved for a special group of people. It is available to every believer who understands the power that has already been placed within their reach. The battles you face may feel real, intense, and overwhelming at times, but they are never greater than the authority that truth provides. The enemy depends on fear, doubt, and silence to maintain influence, but when truth is spoken with faith, his strategies begin to collapse. What you allow to come out of your mouth determines whether fear grows stronger or whether victory begins to manifest. Words spoken in faith do more than encourage the heart. They establish authority, release peace, and create stability during life's most difficult moments. Every challenge you face becomes an opportunity to exercise confidence in what has already been promised. When fear appears, truth has the power to silence it. When discouragement tries to settle in, spoken faith has the power to restore strength. When confusion attempts to cloud your thinking, confident declarations of truth bring clarity and direction. Victory is not always seen instantly, but it is always established when faith refuses to surrender to circumstances. The more consistently truth is spoken, the stronger confidence becomes, and the easier it becomes to stand firm when opposition arises. You were never created to live in constant defeat, fear, or uncertainty. You were created to walk with confidence, stability, and authority. Every time you choose to speak truth instead of fear, you reinforce that authority. Every time you declare promises instead of problems, you strengthen your faith. Over time, those declarations reshape your thinking, influence your environment, and create a life marked by peace, freedom, and consistent victory that becomes evident in how you respond to challenges, how you carry yourself through difficulties, and how you inspire confidence and hope in those around you.